50 times more likely to become a heroin user as an adult. A positive adult role model spending a few hours a month with a child can make the difference. A child with a mentor is 46% less likely to begin using illegal drugs. 46%. Mentors change lives. We need mentors. Change a life. Be a mentor. Call Project Director Tiffany Hendershot today at 304-267-3510. 304-267-3510.
The Honda Memorial Day sales event has brilliant deals on our most popular vehicles, like the Civic, Fit, and Pilot. It's the perfect way to start summer across America. From the Liberty Bell to Hollywood, and even back up to Niagara Falls. So start your summer with the 2018 KBB.com Best Overall Brand during the Honda Memorial Day sales event. Now at your Honda dealer.
Miller Honda South of Winchester, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. www.mymillerhonda.com.
Based on 2018 brand image awards from Kelly Blue Book. Visit KBB.com for more information.
Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer deaths in the United States each year. But do you know the radon levels in your home? Home is a place to live, love, and laugh, not a place to breathe air containing radon. The Berkeley and Morgan County Health Departments are distributing free confidential radon test kits, and you can get yours at the Berkeley County Health Department office in Martinsburg and the Morgan County Health Department office in Berkeley Springs. Protect your home and family. Get your free radon test kit today. Downtown Martinsburg is the place to be for the Fridays at 5 summer concert series from June 1st through August 31st. Enjoy great music and fun with well-known musicians, bands, and Martinsburg artists that'll liven up your spirits at the town square. Concerts begin at 5 p.m. and usually last until 7. Enjoy great music while visiting Martinsburg's Farmers Market, housed on East King Street, where you're able to enjoy fresh fruits and veggies, chicken and pork, and a lot more. Pets are allowed in the square during the concerts, provided they're on a 6-foot leash or less. For the full concert summer series lineup, go to mainstreetmartinsburg.com.
Come out and join members of the West Virginia University Mountaineers baseball program as they come to the Eastern Panhandle to host a traveling camp June 13th at Oatsdale Park, home of Martinsburg Little League. This camp will feature fundamental skills in hitting, infield, catching, pitching, and base running. It runs from 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. on Wednesday, June 13th. Cost is $50 per player, and you will be able to register at wvucamps.com. Again, that's wvucamps.com.
Talk Radio WRNR studios. It's time for Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob Mario and David Welch.
Thank you, Cliffy. Good morning and welcome into the program. This first segment of our show brought to you by Miller Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Route 9 east of Martinsburg, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. Good morning, Davey.
Good morning to you. I'm feeling soggy this morning.
I was going to say waterlogged.
I'm feeling rather soggy this morning.
Enough of this, huh?
Oh, enough. I mean, the good news is that all of our lawns and all of our things will be very, very green. The bad news is the weeds grow too during times like this.
You know, I was mentioning this.
So you take one with the other, right?
About an hour ago to Matt. And I picked a great time to plant 2 new trees in the front yard and put some sod down because, I mean, they're flourishing. The sod is taken. It's thick and green and lush and growing really well.
That's your lawn?
Yeah, there were some spots in the back that I had just been turned into mud over the years, and I had to do something about it, so I did this year. And, man, usually you have to stand out there with a garden hose for 2 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
The garden hose come from above.
I remember, it was probably about 10 years ago, I planted 30 trees, little ones. They came up to my knees, and it was during that one summer when we had the drought.
Oh.
And the little bitty trees that I had, we did it as sort of a barrier for privacy, and I had 30 of them, and I had to haul that hose over, a few acres of property to water these every single day.
It's a lot of garden hose.
It's a lot of garden hose and a lot of work. But they weren't going to they were going to die because of this drought. Well, now they're all 30 feet tall, so I'm proud that I spent that summer watering them one by one.
I'll bet the maple tree we put in has grown 4 feet since we planted it a month ago. It's just every day I look at it, it's taller and taller.
Is there a bee update at your house today?
Yeah,
our listeners are just, in fact, we've got hundreds of new people tuning in to hear Rob's daily bee report.
I actually got an email from our listener, Rich DeMosk, who sent me a prescription for how to make boric acid, right? Boric acid spray.
Everybody should have some of that, I think.
And he's sent me this this detailed home chemistry set of how to break down boric acid into a powder so you can spray it up into the holes. And I read a bit more of this, and it's basically, if you do this, you need to wear like a hazmat suit, because if you get it on your skin, I mean, the directions for the safety of it scared me so much I don't want to go near this stuff.
Exactly.
So I called my exterminator, and he came yesterday and said he was going to take care of the problem. So the bee problem should soon subside.
Nice. And everyone should have an exterminator, I would think.
I got an exterminator.
You have a primary care physician, you have a lawyer, and an exterminator, and you've got everything you need.
I got a guy.
Got a guy. Got peeps.
Got a guy. Big show today. We want to say good morning to our first guests today, Dennis Fisher. Good morning, Dennis. How you feeling?
Good.
Good to have you in studio. First time we've had you in here, right?
Yes.
All right, very nice.
What do you think? Are you comfortable so far?
Yes, I'm fine.
Everything's good.
I mean, I found you hanging out in the kitchen, so you found your way to the kitchen.
No problem.
All right.
Did we feed you this morning, Dennis?
No, not today.
Beverage?
Oh, yeah.
All right, good. Very good. Joe Burkhart is here, too. Joe, good morning to you.
Good morning.
From the State Treasurer's Office. I understand Mr. Perdue is in the Eastern Panhandle this morning.
He actually is. He is going to be visiting schools to congratulate winners of the When I Grow Up contest in 3 schools in Berkeley County. So we're very proud to have 3 schools that achieved that success today, and 3 students who were chosen as contest winners.
We're never going to get that award, Rob, you and me.
Well, we're not students any longer.
No, but the When I Grow Up award, we're just probably not candidates for that, I wouldn't think.
Jury's out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Do you know what schools he's going to today?
I do. He's going to Tomahawk Elementary. He's going to Hedgesville Elementary. And he will then go to Mountain Ridge Intermediate School this morning. So
that's great.
Yeah, we're very happy to have
that's nice. And congratulations to all the kids.
Absolutely.
For growing up.
Well, we're thinking about it anyway.
We need more grown-up kids in West Virginia.
Goal. I think that's a goal.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, just a note to pass along. We've gotten in the past requests. Of course, you know, we do the TV show here live on Comcast Cable Channel 10 in Berkeley and Jefferson counties, 32,000 homes.
Let me check out Dennis first and see how you're looking pretty good, Dennis. I'm looking at the monitor up here.
Yeah.
You look good. Okay.
So, you know, we also have had requests for how do I watch a replay of the show for people who miss it. And there actually are people besides our relatives who want to watch a replay of the show.
My relatives will never want to watch a replay of the show.
There will be details forthcoming potentially in the future about that on Channel 10, but in terms of a replay of the show now, you can go to YouTube and catch a replay of the show starting this morning. I am actually recording the show as we speak to go on YouTube later in the day.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that's a possibility now as well.
Yet one more opportunity to catch the show. So we're putting it out there. You can listen live, you can get it online, you can get it on AM, FM, you can get it on Channel 10, and now you can get it on YouTube.
When you have a mogul running things, multimedia mogul, things happen, right? WV Able is something I wanted to talk about this morning, and we saw Dennis had sent out a press release about this not too long ago, and it caught my eye for very good reason. Dennis, can you tell us a little bit about the program?
The program is sponsored by West Virginia Treasurer's Department. It is designed to help disabled individuals that are on SSI or SSDI.
Mm-hmm.
Those individuals, for years, have only been able to save up to $2,000 in resources or savings. If they have more money than that saved, they can lose their benefits. This new program, which is sponsored by West Virginia, it's run also by, we use Ohio's platform, I believe. Individuals that are disabled can save now up to $15,000 per year without loss of benefits, tax-free. If they are working, they can save up to $27,000 per year, tax-free. They can use the money for any living expenses, anything that is deemed necessary for living.
And does it cover specific types of disabilities or all disabilities? Any
disabilities that are credible by SSI or SSDI has to happen prior to age 26.
The disability has had to have occurred prior to age 26.
Yes.
And so it's designed really to help younger people then. Is that right?
Not really. there's disabled people right now that are 50, 60-year-old that have had disabilities since birth, so they will qualify.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
There is legislation at this point to try to move that age to 46 rather than 26. But at this point, it is still the onset must be before the age of 26.
So in other words, it's going to be more or less a lifetime disability kind of situation. It can't be like a workplace disability that happens at 42 years old. You would not be eligible for this.
Not at this point.
Unless they raise it to 46.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what you're talking about is exactly the reason we are looking at, and the legislators are looking at moving it to 46. And I'm talking federal as well as state. Currently, there are 30 states that have an ABLE program. The legislation started in, it was actually passed in 2014. And then the state treasurer's office in West Virginia rolled this out in February. So it's a relatively new program. We're looking to provide as much information and training for folks as we possibly can, so that anyone and everyone who meets the criteria can, of course, participate. And the owner is always the person who has the disability, although a parent can help to enroll the person.
How many people in the state of West Virginia are affected by this or could benefit from this if this age limit is increased and now that the actual financial benefit is increased?
Dennis, you probably know that a little more than I do, working with the Special Olympics. Thousands, of course, but
Yes.
exact number I don't have. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I wouldn't have it either.
That's all right. The financial limit before was $2,000 that you
Right.
could save. What counts as money saved? Is it simply money in a checking or savings account, or is it any asset at all?
Any asset at all. They couldn't even own a vehicle. If they owned a vehicle, that counted towards the $2,000. If they had life insurance and they were the owner, that counted towards the $2,000.
And $2,000 isn't very much. And so what you're saying that until this went into effect, you're talking about anything over $2,000, they would not get any kind of disability benefits. Is that correct?
Right.
They could lose their SSI.
So it's an incentive to stay poor in a sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yes, and if you look at it that way, it really is. This gives everyone the opportunity, those citizens who have disabilities, the opportunity to feel a little more secure, and it gives the parents of children with disabilities an opportunity to feel more secure about what happens to their child in the future.
With the way the rule was, if the parents had more than $2,000 in savings, did that affect the kid's ability, or was it just the child itself?
The person with the disability.
Okay, so this minor child who had less than $2,000 in savings was fine, but if it went over $2,000, the minor child could lose some or all of their benefits.
That's correct.
Or if the parent gave them more than $2,000 into an account, that would count as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that sounds like a good idea to me.
And one of the biggest losses today is, yes, the Social Security benefits, the monetary benefits, but they would lose their medical benefits also. And that's huge now.
Yeah, that's kind of drastic, I would
This
think.
sounds like a rule that was written a long time ago when $2,000 was worth a lot more than it used to be, and as time went by, nobody adjusted to $2,000 for inflation?
Possible, yeah.
Is that probably right?
Probably right. The other part of that is because the benefits are so inclusive for children and citizens with disabilities, I think they looked at making sure that people weren't taking advantage of the system, and that's probably one of the major reasons it was kept at such a low threshold.
Right.
But at this point, we realize, and thankfully legislators realize, that citizens with disabilities actually need more money than most of us who have no disabilities because of the medical problems that they have and because of all of the other things that they need, and often they're unable to work.
Sure.
So,
I would imagine a lot of them are unable to work.
Well, if you're on
Yes.
disability,
I would
right?
think.
Yes.
Well, I think, Rob, it kind of depends. I mean, if there's a lot of people that I'm thinking have a disability, yet they're still very functional in the workplace.
But if you're collecting Social Security disability is very difficult to get. If you're collecting it, you're probably not able to work.
Okay.
You may have an individual disability policy might be a little bit more favorable to you, but from what I understand it, with Social Security, it's not easy to get.
In a lot of cases, people can work like out at sheltered work areas, like out at Grove Center, and that does help them. Gives them a job, gives them something to do so that they aren't sitting around all the time. It does give them some pocket money.
We have Roy on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line, and he has a question for our guests, Dennis Fisher and Jill Burkhart, this morning. Good morning, Roy.
Good morning, everybody. How's it this rainy Thursday morning?
Wet.
We're soggy, Roy. That's what we are this morning. Like you, probably.
Yeah.
It's not the truth. My question to the panel there is, I've been on disability since 2011, actually 07, because they back paid me for 3 years for my colon cancer, and then I blew my neck, spine, and hip out in 2010, so I was put on permanent disability. I've been denied to have any savings. I've been denied to have any type of life insurance, which I really would love to have for my family for the future. And at 56, I can't own or have anything. Every year when they do the renewal, they're constantly saying they got to take an extra $300 out of my disability for Medicare. And then I have to sit down and explain to them from the rule books that the only time that they are allowed to touch your disability is only if an individual in the home is receiving any form of state or federal assistance. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. That's how I'm understanding it by dealing with them on this issue every year. So am I allowed now to start attempting a life insurance policy, and can I continue or start saving money in the bank instead of actually putting it in a hold?
Jill, Dennis?
Sure. I would like to address that for you, but because it is a specific issue that you have, I really would like to direct you to another person with the State Treasurer's Office who can answer your questions and would be very happy to talk with you at any time. She's actually the person who is working as the coordinator for the WV ABLE program. Her name is Christy Pritt, and she can be reached at 304-5050, and I would encourage you to give her a call because she will be happy to talk with you, and at the same time she would be able to answer your questions. If she does not have the information, she will certainly find out for you.
Wow.
Okay.
Very helpful. How about that, Roy, for service?
Hey, that was awesome because I knew she was going into the information, and I immediately grabbed the pen and wrote everything down. She's good.
Thanks for calling, Roy.
Roy, one question.
Hold on, don't go away, Roy.
Don't go away.
One question before you hang up. What age did your first disability occur?
07, I would have been, well, they back paid it in 07. I didn't start receiving benefits until 2010, so I would have been 48.
So right now, you would not be covered.
You wouldn't qualify for the WV ABLE, but Christy might have some ideas for you that you could pursue.
Understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right now, the age is 26, and you're hoping to get it increased to 46.
Yes.
So 48, you'd missed the cutoff.
I looked up your website while we were talking here, and it looked up the benefits. What are the benefits? Tax-free earnings, financial benefits not affected, and then a third one called the Stable Card. Can you explain what the Stable Card is?
Sure. The Stable Card is actually a debit card where money is put onto that card, and it does not then come completely out of the account when they use it. It's already front-loaded onto the account. So it's just very similar to a debit card that a person would be able to use, and makes it much handier for someone to utilize it for the expenses of living. And those living expenses can be anything that will benefit that particular individual. I know some folks have said, well, what about my family? Can they also benefit? No, it is only for that individual with the disability. So it's very similar to a debit card, and it becomes very handy for a person to utilize when they don't have cash or they're not really comfortable carrying cash.
The nice thing about that card is you're front loaded. If they want to go buy some clothing, you put $200 on the card. They go out, start shopping, they lose the card. The only thing that can come out is that $200. It cannot tap the entire account.
Good point. We're talking with Joe Burkhart from the Treasurer's Office in the state, Dennis Fisher as well, WV Able, the program which will allow people collecting disability to now save more than $2,000 without the risk of losing their disability income. Has the increase kicked in already, Joe, Dennis?
Yes. The program began in February, so anyone who enrolls, and it's about a 10-minute enrollment process online.
Where do you go?
Yeah, you go to the West Virginia Able State Treasurer's Office, and there's a link to that, www.westvirginiatreasury.com. There's a link to the West Virginia Able program, and they can also just go straight to the West Virginia Able program if they Google it and want to participate. If they need help, we have people at the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office who can help them. Christy Pritt I've already mentioned, and they can give me a call. I'd be happy to help them or direct them to the website or to assist them with actually completing the online enrollment process. As I said, it takes about 10 minutes, fairly easy process. It's very similar to the West Virginia 529 program. The other thing we haven't talked about is the fact that there is an investment option available to folks. So they have several options actually to increase their amounts of money and to invest in programs that will help them continue to have funds in the future.
Jill, this, and Dennis, sorry for jumping in there, this is not to enroll in disability. This is to enroll in the program that allows you to increase the amount of money you're allowed to save, get a life insurance policy, have an asset of some sort, like a car, for instance.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
And that website, by the way, is wvable.com.
Yes.
Right. So it's easy to remember.
When they enroll, minimum deposit of $50. After that point, you can set up reoccurring deposits. You can put in minimum of $1. You can go in anytime you want to deposit money. Parents, grandparents can make gifts directly to the account also.
And does this money accumulate tax-free? Tax-deferred?
Yes, totally tax-free.
And it's up to what amount now, $15,000?
$15,000 with a $100,000 limit at any time before it begins to create a problem for the individual. So, but $15,000 a year is the max. That's the max because that's the amount of money that someone can actually gift you at this point. It's just been increased to $15,000, and it'll probably be increased in the next year also as, you know, money becomes an issue for folks. But they are able to gift up to $15,000 to that individual. So.
And there is legislation that will be introduced, did you say, this next session to perhaps raise it to the age from 26 to 46, or is that something you're just working on preliminarily right now?
I wish that were the legislation that was going to be introduced.
You would like to see that.
Yes.
So you need to find some legislators who are willing to, I guess, take this up and try and push it through.
Exactly.
Right. But at this point, it is not on the docket. They're just working to get it to that point.
Right up what you need. We talk to our legislators all the time. We'll ask them if they'll support the program too. And again, we're not talking about getting more people with disability, folks. This is not a program where we're signing people up to give them money for free. This is for people who are already disabled, already receiving disability income. This simply allows them to save more than $2,000. Period, end of story, so that they have a little bit of cushion in the bank when disaster falls. And as we all know, the next disaster is always right around the corner. You don't know what it is, but you know it's going to cost a lot.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Could be like in weather like this, you look up during a storm and the roof is starting to come down on you. You need to fix it. If you don't have $2,000 saved, you're going to have a tough time fixing the roof, right?
Correct.
And for some strange reason, the law has always been that you can't save more than $2,000 or you lose part of your disability income. So maybe that, maybe with the change in that now, that hopefully will help some people too.
Right.
WVAble.com is where you find out more. Thanks to both of you for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
Much appreciated. Dennis Fisher and Jill Burkhart at 8:30. Dave, let's write that down. And remember, we need to start asking legislators about that.
Will do.
That's raising the age from when the disability had initially hit you from under 26 to under 46 now is what we're talking about with that. 8:31, our news break is coming up next.
And regret is just a memory written on my brow, and there's nothing I can do about it now.
CBS News Update. Today is the one-year mark for the special counsel's Russia investigation, and President Trump is calling it the greatest witch hunt in American history. No collusion, no obstruction, he tweets. Mr. Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, tells Fox News it's time for Robert Mueller to wind things down.
We're trying to get him to end this. This is not good for the American people. And the special counsel's office doesn't seem to have that sort of understanding that they're interfering with things that are much bigger than them or us.
On the possibility of an indictment, CBS's Paula Reed.
Both Mueller and the Justice Department have said that they don't believe they have the authority to indict a sitting president. What they do have the authority to do, though, is refer any evidence of criminal wrongdoing to Congress for possible impeachment proceedings.
Rudy Giuliani says yesterday's financial disclosure should vindicate Mr. Trump from possible inquiries into campaign finance violations. They show the president reimbursed his lawyer Michael Cohen for hush money paid to Stormy Daniels. CBS News Update.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. The tab for repairing Lambert Pool could run over $150,000. Steve Catlett, executive director of Martinsburg Berkeley County Parks and Rec, says doing so could be a waste of money, so he's telling city officials that after this year, they shouldn't be paying to operate the pool. Catlett recently told the council of another possible way forward, ditching Lambert entirely and partnering with Berkeley Medical Center to build an indoor swimming pool on 75-plus acres of land owned by the center. He's also suggested replacing Lambert with a spray park. The indoor pool would cost between $15 and $20 million, and the spray park would cost much less than Lambert Pool to operate. West Virginia U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito, among other senators, introduced the Using Data to Prevent Opioid Diversion Act, legislation that would provide drug manufacturers and distributors with data to identify pharmacies that are suspiciously ordering prescription opioids. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
Our Eastern Panhandle weather maps for this Thursday morning show low pressure in the Tennessee Valley. That's going to come up along a stationary front down to our south. It's been triggering all the rain here for the last few days. That front is going to linger across Virginia, and the low pressure is going to slide along it over the next day and a half. And more of the rainy conditions that we've experienced will continue to be with us into the start of the weekend. We have a flood watch in effect until 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Showers, scattered thunder showers in the afternoons today and tomorrow, maybe some heavy downpours then. Daytime highs right around 70 degrees. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
Now's the time to talk with John's Pool Supplies about opening your pool. Or maybe it's time for a new above-ground or in-ground pool. John's Pool Supplies, 237 Eagle School Road, has over 30 years of experience and a large selection of products, services, and supplies for your pool or hot tub. From custom liner installation and pool inspection to free water testing, call John's Pool Supplies at 304-267-2000, johnspoolsupplies.com.
Burke, Schultz, Harmon, and Jenkinson. We're accident, injury, and disability lawyers with over 120 years combined trial experience. We play hardball. If you've been hurt in a car wreck, don't sleep on your rights. Insurance companies hire staff to reject or minimize your claims. You need a seasoned professional to fight back. Call 304 Lawyers for a free consultation. If you make no recovery, there is no fee. 304 Lawyers or 304-263-0900.
Hi, honey.
Where are you?
I've been in line at the post office for the last 30 minutes.
Why are you at the post office? It'll take you all day.
Where else do I go to ship my packages or drop FedEx off at?
Honey, going postal is way faster, has less lines, and friendly service.
Where's going postal?
It's right in the Commons Shopping Center in Martinsburg. They'll ship your packages quickly, and you can avoid the lines.
Going postal should be your first choice for all your shipping needs. Going postal, the Commons, Martinsburg.
L.A. Roberts is Berkeley County's oldest jeweler, where every season is new and exciting. In fact, new is old school to us, and though it's nothing new, our old traditions like exceptional service, quality, and value maintain L.A. Roberts Jewelers as the old master among so many new kids on the block. Whether you're a newcomer or part of the old guard, entrust all your fine jewelry needs to L.A. Roberts, Old World Jewelers for a new age, in historic downtown Martinsburg. Welcome back to the program. This segment of Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave brought to you by Bechtel Jewelers, West Virginia's largest Pandora retailer, Route 11 South Inwood, next to Viva Mexico, 836. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning to you, bud.
It's even though it's raining, it's still a great day to be.
You know, it is. It's comfortable outside. I'm kind of getting used to it. I think when the sun comes out, I'm just going to be stunned and we'll be uncomfortable. What about you?
Bob Kukin said you won't see the sun today, so when it sets at 8:21, you will not be aware.
You won't even know it's set, right? It's supposed to be a little bit darker outside.
Storms have blown in during various times of the day. It's like it's gotten pitch black at times.
Yeah, and what happens is that they seem to be all hitting sort of at rush hour, which is wrecking havoc, in the whole metropolitan Washington area. People are getting used to driving home in the rain, and it, including me. I drove back from Rockville the last 2 nights in this mess, and I'm just kind of getting tired of it. I think it's time for a little sunshine.
Maybe by Sunday we'll get a little shot at it. They're trying to get the softball playoffs in at the high school level this week, and the girls were able to get in one game yesterday, which is amazing to me. But actually, it wasn't all that bad yesterday until the storms actually hit. I know there was some
just a little wet out there, but but not real bad.
We've been thinking the day before. I don't know. One day blends into the next with the rain. But I do know I had some neighbors out cutting the grass during the day, and then the storms blew in, and whew.
Yeah, and not a very good time for the Nats to have big opponents coming in,
Yankees
back to back, Yankees and Dodgers. It doesn't get better than that in terms of back to back, teams that really draw big crowds, and so it's really interfering with that series. So we've got tickets to the Dodgers and Nats on Sunday afternoon.
I think it'll be okay Sunday.
I think we'll be fine, yeah.
Yankees games will be rescheduled for June 18, by the way.
Okay.
Yankees, even though today's an off day for the Nationals and the Yankees anyway on the schedule, the Yankees could not make the game up today because apparently hotel space in Washington, D.C. was an issue.
As always. It even affects major leaguers, I guess.
There are so many special prosecutors in town, Dave, digging up something they couldn't fit in.
The lobbyists have all the rooms.
I'll let you introduce our next segment, sir. Why don't you take it?
Yeah, this is one of those mornings, special mornings for me, because our next guest, Emily Keefer, has done really a wonderful thing. And we like to highlight on this show young people, especially, who are off doing great things. And we pay a lot of attention to that. And we try to follow them as they move along. And so in this case, Emily has written a story. And you might not think that's such a big deal, but the nature of the story is really cool. About a year ago, and I'll let her tell her own story, she ended up flying down to Odessa, Texas on the event of the 30th anniversary of the book Friday Night Lights.
Excellent book, by the way.
Excellent book, which was later turned into a movie, which was later turned into a TV series. But it's special for me because Emily Keefer is my granddaughter. So, Emily, welcome to Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. I think this is the first time you've ever been on our show.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, come on, a lot closer to the microphone. There you go.
She is a student at Shepherd University and majoring in English, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, English education.
And you'd love to be a writer someday, and this is your first published story. So why don't you walk us through it? How did you end up in Odessa, and what happened, and what was the result of all that? What piqued your interest?
So the first thing I did was read the book. And the book was written in the late 90s about the 1988 football season. And as we know, times have kind of changed since then. And reading the book, it kind of piqued my interest reading the book because it was hard for me to imagine a place like it was described in the book because it was so real and harsh, some of the things that the book was describing. And I just loved the series in general, the book, movie, and TV show, and I just wanted to know more about it. There was so much open-endedness, I thought, also. So many stories untold, as there is with a lot of things. And I just really wanted to know more about it.
But a lot of times when someone's interested in something these days, they would Google it. And they would
it would cost less.
Yeah, and they would read about it. And so you took it one step further, though, didn't you?
Yes, I definitely Googled it, did all my research and everything. But in my article, it talks about how I'm very interested in stories of people from small towns and about how they grow, that kind of thing in general. And I just had this feeling that this town was going to be so neat, and I definitely didn't disappoint in that aspect. So I was definitely glad I went there and did my own research.
Yeah, it was interesting, too, the people that you met when you went there. And you had to make these appointments before you left. And talk to us about some of the folks that, you know, that you spent time with in Odessa. And what did you learn from talking to them and just sort of hanging around the town?
So I was in Odessa for give or take 3 days, 3.5 days. And I got to meet some of the people that were a big part of the book when it was written. So, for example, like I said, the book was written in late 90s about the 88 season. I met a woman named Elizabeth Fott, who was the coach's secretary during the 88 season, which was so interesting because she had a whole different perspective because she wasn't necessarily written about in the book. Her name wasn't even mentioned in the book, but she was there during all of it. And we got to spend the whole football game together on Friday night and just chat and talk about all of that when it first came out, how everyone felt. And it was really neat to meet her. I also met one of the defensive coaches during that time as well. His name's Steve Malone. He was really neat also. He's now a substitute teacher, so he had an interesting perspective as well. So those were the two people I met from the book specifically. When it was written.
But you also spent time with the current principal of the high school. You went to a high school game. I think you even spent a little bit of time with the quarterback, didn't you?
Yes, the quarterback, and then I believe it was the defensive tackle as well. Steven Steen's a senior. He's the quarterback, and the defensive tackle, one of them is Tanner Adams. So they're both great and got to see them play on Friday and everything. So
one of them's going to college and playing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Steven Steen is going to the Naval Academy.
Oh, nice.
He signed himself over to the Naval Academy to play football, so he'll be there next year.
And I read the book many years ago, so it might not be totally fresh in my mind, but I remember reading about in Odessa, Texas, and some of the things that I recall kind of vividly. And Rob, you probably read it more currently than I did. One is the size of the football program itself. They have a 20,000 capacity high school stadium right on, basically on their campus, and which is, Texas football. They talk about it being big. That's pretty darn big. That'd be more or less 3 or 4 times the size of Shepherd colleges.
Yeah, Shepherd seats about 5. So yeah.
So it was just the seriousness in which these Texas towns take football. Not that we don't take it seriously here in the Eastern Panhandle, we do. The other thing that came out in the book was a fair amount of racial strife in 1988. Can you talk to us about what you saw down there in terms of anything that is different now, the Odessa of now, than the Odessa you may have read about in the book in 1988?
So when I was there, like I said, I was there for 2.5, 3 days, but I experienced a great amount of equalness from what I perceived from the book. And I think that's really what I was looking for. I was really hoping that it wasn't as racially divided or all about football necessarily. I found a lot of equalness in the way that, like I said, I didn't really get to see how they interacted at school or that kind of thing or around the community, but at least at the football games, there wasn't any separate, there wasn't any separateness between.
But there was a
anything.
Positive community spirit. I think what you saw there was a community spirit that was positive, whereas the community spirit in 1988 wasn't altogether positive.
Absolutely. And when I read the book, I thought that it would be very evident if there was, consistent with what he said in the book. So when I was there, I really didn't see anything that caught me off guard in that aspect. So it was kind of neat to see how equal things were.
Emily Keefer is our guest here at Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. And I understand, Dave, that we have a caller. We're going to go to the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line and say good morning to Catherine. Hello, how are you?
Hi, guys. How are you?
You recognize that voice?
Hi, Catherine. Hi, Emily. I just wanted to call in, and I was so thrilled to hear that you were on the radio this morning. And I just wanted to just tell everybody that you're an awesome budding writer, and I'm just really proud of you for pursuing this story and how you got it published and everything else. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Talk to us about Catherine's role in this and helping you.
And this is Catherine Cobb, herself an author and writer locally.
Yes.
Yes, Catherine is great. She actually helped me because when I got back from Texas, I had no idea what I was doing. I had never written anything before. And had no idea where to start, especially when it came to journalism. You know, I could write down everything else, but when it came to appealing to a certain audience, that was really difficult for me, especially with all the information I gathered. And Catherine was a huge help in helping me. She edited my article for me. She really helped me in that aspect. And she just really, honestly, helped me get going with that. So.
And of course, many of our listeners will know Catherine because she writes a monthly column in the Journal called "It Is What It Is."
Yep.
One of my favorite sayings, actually.
Definitely.
Is there a thought here, Emily, that you might write Friday Night Lights 30 years after as a follow-up book?
Is there a thought that I would write a book?
Yeah. Is there a thought that you might do that?
Absolutely. I would love to do that.
Is that
kind of working on it now, but it's very.
Maybe in the plans?
Definitely in the plans, but not necessarily written.
Is H.D. Bissinger still alive?
Yes.
Have you talked to H.D.?
I have not.
That would be an interesting conversation, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. You said they had a 20,000-seat stadium. Dave mentioned that. And when you were there for the Friday night game, was it relatively full?
Absolutely. The visiting side,
of course,
wasn't completely full because the team they were playing, it was Odessa High School. So it's Permian, the one that I went to, and then Odessa High School is their district rival, and they have a streak for winning against them with football. So there wasn't tons of people on the visitor side, but Ratliff Stadium on the home side was definitely full and loud.
How did you develop your love of football?
I think it kind of just runs in the family, to be honest with you.
And she is a Steeler fan, I will guarantee you. There you go. Fist pump. Yep, there you go.
Yeah, that's nice.
Catherine, what kind of, I know that you probably can't stay on for the entire time here, but any parting words of wisdom for our young budding writer here?
Well, I encouraged Emily to just keep writing because that's the best way to get better for any writer. It just takes time to polish your work and start to understand how to construct things properly. And getting a meaty story like the one, I mean, she just jumped right in with a huge idea, and having an idea like that is brilliant. I mean, it's a little out of the box. Most people start a little smaller, but I just think when you have a great idea, or even if you don't, jump in and start working on it and keep practicing, because that's the stuff that helps you get better.
Well,
and I've really enjoyed the mentoring process with her. She sent me some things. She has some ideas, and we've been talking those through as they happen. And I think it's great when you can have somebody like that, too, who's kind of already been down the path and can give you some tips. So.
Thank you, Catherine.
My mentors too.
Well, Catherine, you and I go back only about 25 or 26 years, I think. But and we both went to San Jose State, as I like to remind everybody. But on behalf of our family, thank you for the help and the mentoring that you gave to Emily. I think it was very, very important, and it was exactly what she needed at the time.
Well, you're all welcome. It was my pleasure. Thanks for bringing us together.
Yep. Thanks for the call. And appreciate it.
All right. Have fun.
Thank you, Catherine. Catherine Cobb, appearing courtesy of the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. Emily, you are about, what, 22?
I'm turning 21 in August.
21, okay. College-age student. So you're, age-wise, you're close in age to the people that you were writing about as the high school students. Obviously, the coaching staff and whatever is older. I've been coaching and involved with the high school football staff at Oakdale High School in Frederick. This will be my seventh year, one way or the other. Fourth as a full-fledged assistant football coach there. And I think it's easy to lose reality and relevancy when we look at these young people we tend to assign adult qualities to them because they are playing a high school sport that gets an entire community excited when they're doing well. And adults rally around, and we kind of start to take on the identity of that football team. And in some cases, we get our self-worth out of how well the teams we root for do. When you met with these high school kids, really, is what they are, to talk with them, did it strike you that there was an awful lot expected and being dumped on what are effectively children?
Absolutely. I think that, let's see, I'm trying to remember here. I believe it was Thursday. I'm not sure exactly what day it was. When I was there, I went to the school. They had, I think it was a teacher appreciation day. So there were no kids at school. And I was planning on like interviewing all these people. And I was like, oh no, what could I do? But of course they still had football practice all day. They actually just kept them there to watch movies for some part of it, just to keep them ready for the game. And that was when I interviewed the two students. And I talked about it in my article because they definitely shocked me with how mannerly they were, how open they were, that kind of thing. There were some adult qualities that I noticed that they already had their plans figured out. Even Tanner, for example, the junior, he already had the school that he wanted to be signed to, and how he was telling me about how he was going to get there, that kind of thing, which is something that should be, you know, as an athlete, if you want to, you should probably be planning for that. But there was definitely, I like to think of it with when I was at the game on Friday, with all the people that were in the stadium. It was so many students and so many parents. And for example, I went to Spring Mills High School for a while, and the football games there were great. It was mostly students, though. If you think about it, there's not tons of parents or community members at football games. There's, of course, some, but that definitely took me off guard, and that kind of made me feel as if there was, you know, a different kind of pressure on them. So not necessarily talking to them, I didn't really notice that, but just my surroundings, kind of.
It was interesting to me that when you first went down there, there was a little bit of apprehension, if I remember this correctly, because this is a community that feels when an outside writer comes in to write about their town, a certain fear that the outcome won't be favorable to them. I think they're just gun shy because of the book and the movie and what have you. And then you write this article, and it gets published in the Odessa newspaper. Talk to us about the feedback you got from the people in Odessa about your article.
Well, what I did was, once I finished the draft, and after Catherine edited it for me, and I went back through it again to make those final changes, I emailed it to the people who were mentioned in there so they could look over it, make sure everything that I said about them was correct, that kind of thing. And during that process, they complimented it. They were very encouraging, as well as when it was published, they were very excited with me. The football players were excited. Miss Vaught was excited. Everyone I talked to was very supportive and very sweet about it. So
as you move through now, you look at the future. As Catherine said, this was a big idea. And do you have thoughts about what you want to do with your next, adventure in writing? Any ideas that you have that are percolating in that pretty little head of yours?
So I actually am working on my next article. I'd like to turn it into the Journal, try to get it published there.
Rob's got connections there, so you need to talk to Rob.
That's great. It's starting to be about hope, not necessarily a religious topic of hope, but just the sense in general, and how it's needed everywhere and how we can find that just within our day-to-day lives. Like I said, not on our religious topic, but just in the world around us, I guess. And then also, when I got back from Odessa, I definitely wanted to write a book. I was like, this is so great. I want to write a novel about it right now. Obviously, I think it was the best decision for me to write an article instead and go from there. I was able to make really cool connections from that. I got some emails from people in Odessa that found my email and were able to talk to me about that. And so kind of just going from there, but hopefully writing a book eventually. That will take a while, but I would definitely like to write a book about it.
I know some of the best authors out there these days are men and women in their 20s that are writing, prolifically about both fiction and nonfiction. So I don't think age is a barrier these days when it comes to writing good stuff that will be purchased and read by others.
Emily Keefer is our guest here at Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, and she went to Odessa, Texas, the home of Permian High School, where the book Friday Night Lights was written, and then obviously a movie followed and a TV series, all because she had a passion about this high school football team and the publicity that it had generated. So after visiting there, she wrote an article that was published in the newspaper in Texas that covers the Permian High School football team, and it would be interesting if that would also, as you mentioned, get published in the Journal or the Herald. We can get a little local look at what that article looks like. Do you regard this as a sports article or a human interest story?
I would say human interest story with the approach that I took. I focused the article on success. When I was interviewing specifically the football players, I asked them what their view of success was. And I actually kind of based the article on that because I think it's a really important thing. A lot of people have different views on success. I talk about how none of them are really wrong since everyone can obviously have their own opinions, but the views of success that people had specifically that I talked to in Texas were very interesting to me, very humble.
Do these players recognize how special it is to be a Permian football player? Is it something that they embrace, or is it a weight sometimes?
That's actually not a question that I asked them, and I wish I would have. I definitely think that they're very, not prideful in a bad way, but I think they're very proud to be a part of that tradition. I know a lot of them, I did ask them about their family history, whether or not their families were a part of Permian and their football team, and they were.
Sure.
So,
it's a way of life, right?
Yeah. It's definitely that. It's definitely true. And so they're definitely proud to be a part of the football team. I'm sure it has their weights. I'm sure they have their weight and their stress before football games and just during the season in general, but they're definitely happy and proud to be a part of that. So,
can you see yourself as a sports writer going forward?
No, not necessarily. I do love sports, but I don't think I could see myself as a sports writer.
Are you going to be a teacher?
I would love to be a teacher, yes. That's what I'm in school for.
We just got you a raise, by the way.
Great.
Rob and I single-handedly made that happen.
Yeah, we take full credit for that.
We do.
And the sports betting bill.
I take full credit for her success, so why should I take credit for that?
Well, if you tuned in late, Emily Keefer is a direct relative of one David Welch. Do you call David Boppy?
Yes, I do, because I couldn't say Pap when I was little. And that's what we normally.
That's how I got Boppy. She named me.
You know, I have to say this. Okay, I've been working with Boppy for a long time here, and I know there's certain little looks I see, but when you said that, you just discussed that now and how you named him, Boppy's eyes moistened a little bit and also got very bright. There was a proud Boppy sitting over there. My goal here is to make him cry. I'm going to start peeling onions if it doesn't work this way. I'm going to try to get a little choke up.
She's only made me cry once, and we're not going to go there.
Emily, when do you finish up your semester at Shepherd?
So I just finished my freshman semester, my first freshman semester. So this coming up fall, I'll still technically be a freshman. So I guess I'll graduate in 21, I think, give or take, depending on how many credits I take. So
sure. Do you plan on writing a lot more all the way through school?
Yeah, I definitely do. I actually, when talking with my advisor, we decided for me to take less credits. I took 19 this past semester, and she decided that it would be a good idea for me to take a little bit less so that I could do some writing too. So.
Did you get compensated at all for your work on the Permian football team?
No, I didn't actually. When I called them asking for it to be published and talking to them about that, they asked if I would like to, and I was completely honest with them. I was, well, to be honest with you, this is my first article. I really just want it published.
Okay, you need an agent, and I'm signing up. That's the last time we do that. It's pay, baby, from now on.
You know, I appreciate your attitude on that, Emily. And Mike Hornby would love your attitude on that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, Bob, you got to get in there as the agent right away.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is pretty cool to get published with your first article, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Hey, by the way, before we let you go, I want you to give Rob something that her mother, my daughter, gave you something that of your very own. So go ahead.
My mom watches the show every morning.
Who's your mom?
Laura.
Right.
And before I left the house this morning, she was like, "Oh, Emily, come here. I have something for you to give to Rob." And she gave me this dog toy. This woodpecker dog toy. And I was about to not take it. So
Oh, mercy. If you don't know the backstory to that by now, you'll never know it. But the woodpeckers have been eating my deck because of all the bee larvae inside. And Lauren, I'm proud to tell you that we caught our first bees in your bee trap.
He actually texted me last night and told me, I caught 2 bees in Laura's trap.
Yeah, we got our first 2 bees in the trap, though. So anyway, thank you very much. Emily, good to see you.
You too. Thank
you. Laura, thank you for the new show mascot right now, too.
Thanks, honey. I love you.
Love you too.
Our news break is coming up next. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Zoom Video Conferencing.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. President Trump is weighing in on this one-year anniversary of the Russia investigation. White House correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
With heavy sarcasm, the president congratulates the country for entering the second year of what he on Twitter calls the greatest witch hunt in American history. Rudy Giuliani tells CBS News the Trump legal team has been told by the special counsel that he intends to abide by the Justice Department's long-standing view that a sitting president can't be indicted. But constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley says that's no favor to Mr. Trump.
All Mueller is saying is that impeachment would come first.
And Turley notes it's not unusual for complex investigations to last longer than a year. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, the White House.
As excitement builds for Saturday's royal wedding, the bride-to-be confirms her father will not be there to walk her down the aisle. Live to Windsor, and correspondent Steve Futterman.
Deborah, as most people speculated, Meghan Markle's father will not be here this weekend. 73-year-old Thomas Markle reportedly underwent a heart procedure yesterday. In a written statement, Meghan Markle says she loves her father very much and says she hopes he can be given what she calls the space he needs to focus on his health. Still unclear who will walk her down the aisle. The favorite right now, her mother. Live outside Windsor Castle, Steve Futterman, CBS News.
There's a unique new drug on the way to ease withdrawal symptoms from opioids. Live to CBS's Peter King.
Well, Deborah, the FDA has expedited approval for Lucemyra, which is being called the first non-opioid treatment to combat withdrawal symptoms. Doctors will be allowed to prescribe it for adults for up to 2 weeks. Now, the agency says it's not specifically designed to treat addiction, but can be used as part of a long-term treatment plan. Approval came after studies show that patients who took it had less severe symptoms than those who took placebos. Deborah?
Attorney General Jeff Sessions is expected to announce today he is adding hundreds of new prosecutors, some to fight opioid epidemic by pursuing stiffer penalties for distributors. On Hawaii's Big Island, sound of one of 21 fissures in the ground spewing sulfur dioxide into the air. Warning signs the Kilauea volcano could be primed for explosive new eruptions. The island's Civil Defense Administrator, Talmadge Magno.
Still putting the messages out, be prepared, at a moment's notice that they might have to either evacuate or move out of the area.
S&P futures are down 5, Dow futures off 29, NASDAQ futures down 32. This is CBS News.
Zoom Video Conferencing, featuring video and audio clarity with screen sharing. Free accounts are available at Zoom.us. That's Zoom.us. Zoom Video Conferencing.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I shopped the many highly rated term life insurance companies we represent, like Prudential and Mutual of Omaha, and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $27 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 800-507-2266. That's 800-507-2266. 800-507-2266. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1958, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. John and Stephen Davis of Berkeley Springs, father and son, have been accused of selling heroin. The Herald Mail saying John also allegedly attempted to run over a narcotics agent with his truck when agents tried to arrest the pair. After that, they say the two drove off, but soon stopped and surrendered. 26-year-old Ryan Stepanian of Charlestown was indicted for bank robbery by a federal grand jury on Tuesday. He's accused of taking $530 from the BB&T in Ranson back in January, and a few days later, nearly $15,000 from the City National Bank of Charlestown. Stepanian faces up to 20 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000 for each count. The Maryland Department of Transportation State Highway Administration says Maryland Route 180, Jefferson Pike, is closed between Petersville Road and Burkittsville Road in Frederick County due to a washout. It could stay closed for up to 7 days so crews can replace a culvert and repair the road. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
Our Eastern Panhandle weather maps for this Thursday morning show low pressure in the Tennessee Valley. That's going to come up along a stationary front down to our south. It's been triggering all the rain here for the last few days. That front is going to linger across Virginia, and the low pressure is going to slide along it over the next day and a half. And more of the rainy conditions that we've experienced will continue to be with us into the start of the weekend. We have a flood watch in effect until 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Showers, scattered thunder showers in the afternoons today and tomorrow. Maybe some heavy downpours then. Daytime highs right around 70 degrees. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
This is Joe Ferretti of Hammer, Ferretti & Schiavone. The laws are changing drastically in West Virginia, and more than ever, you'll need an attorney with a reputation and a history of good results handling your personal injury claim. At my law firm, each attorney has at least 28 years of experience winning cases. Ask about our reputation and history of proven results. We know these comparisons will convince you to call Hammer, Ferretti & Schiavone at 264-8505. Call for a free meeting to discuss your case. And of course, you can find us on the web at hfslawyers.com.
Are you looking for a full-service web design company right here in the Eastern Panhandle? Then look no further than Pro Design LLC, specializing in web design and development, web hosting, and application development. Pro Design is a locally owned company serving local clients since 1997 with a reputation of quality, creativity, and personal touch. Let Pro Design build or redesign your dream website. Find them online at professionaldesign.com or phone 304-676-9940.
Kids, what's the rule about running in the house?
Always run hard out of the box.
That's not what I said.
She's running third. Here comes the play at the plate. Uh-oh.
Let's clean that up before Mom gets home.
Exciting baseball action and quality family time? There's a place for that. Nationals Park. Get more bang for your buck this baseball season with deals on tickets and concessions for the whole family. See you at Nationals Park, your place to run wild. Buy your tickets today at nationals.com.
Welcome back to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. Soggy Thursday edition, brought to you in this segment by the Brown Funeral Homes and Cremations. Robert Fields and Sons, family-owned, full-service funeral home, proudly serving our area since 1880. Full thanks and credit to the Brown Funeral Home, one of our loyal, longtime sponsors of Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. If you'd like to be a sponsor of the show, too, by the way, I'll throw this out there as well.
And who wouldn't want to be?
I don't know why.
I can't even imagine. You would not want to be a sponsor of this show.
You got so much expo. You got your FM, you got your AM, you're online. We're streaming on the app too, and also on Comcast Cable Channel 10 television. 32,000 homes in Berkeley and Jefferson County, and now also with the YouTube replay.
And you'll never, if you're a sponsor, you will never get asked a hard question on this show.
Sam's going, how much are those ads again? Can I get in on some of the
Politicians don't count.
They don't count. Even if you buy ads on the station, you still have to answer a few questions now and then. A big thanks to Laura for the yeah, she got me the stuff. If you don't watch us on TV, and that I just need to get you the radio sound effect.
If you don't watch it, you don't get it.
Yeah. So, but from the radio end of it, before Emily left, her mom, Laura, Dave's daughter, had given me this special gift, the stuffed Woody Woodpecker doll. So it's about a foot tall. So.
And we didn't know if you squeezed it that it did that. Yeah. So she had to text us and say, squeeze it. So that when we did, that's what came out. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, Sam, I'm sorry, just to beat the point into the ground and then further knock it out the other end of the pole on the south end of the globe. I have a woodpecker problem because I got a carpenter bee problem.
You know, I heard that a little bit ago, and I'm hoping that's getting corrected.
Yeah, I think everybody is hoping it's getting corrected. So
See, if I had a woodpecker problem, I would just call my state delegate. Isn't that what you do?
No. I did call once when I had a bunch of starlings in our oven hood. I called the critter guy, and he came and got the starlings out of basically the wall of my house.
Right.
That helped.
Yeah, that's another good story too.
There's nothing quite like diseased birds in your house.
Maybe your house is haunted or something. I mean, there's all kinds of
It attracts animals.
couple
Every couple of years,
goes on
I have
there.
some kind of new animal infestation.
None of them, though, top the bee in your pants story. That's the best.
The bee in your pants story. I don't know if I've heard this one.
That's Sam Brown, by the way, Democrat nominee in the 63rd. Sam, good morning to you.
There's two kinds of guests: the ones who wait to be introduced, and the ones who just sort of
Kelly Tanksley.
Kelly Tanksley.
I don't blame him though.
Right. I don't either.
When you tease a subject like bees in my pants, he's got to ask.
He's got to, yeah.
Right. Well, last year I'm also the president of our homeowners association in my community.
Okay.
I didn't seek that title; it fell on me one day. And I thought I'd save the community some money by digging up some dead rose bushes in the median that goes up into our development when you drive into it. So I went down and I dug up like 3 or 4 of them. About the 5th one, as I sunk the shovel into the ground to take the dead rose bush out, suddenly I realized that there was a bee's nest under there.
Interesting.
And I realized it from pain first and then the actual sight. So as I began reliving my sprinter days from high school, I started tearing up the road to learn that bees can fly faster than I can run. And a few of them got into my pants leg, into my shoe, and then up into my shirt. And fortunately, nobody was recording that as it happened live.
And no man wants that to happen.
And some of those bees, when they get angry, they don't die the first time you squish them. There's something like Walking Dead bee series, and
they keep coming back,
like zombie bees. You hit them, you think you got them squished, and they just keep
like a stink bug.
Yeah,
they're kind of like that. Too.
So I got a lot of stings that day.
Sam Brown is the Democratic nominee because he didn't have a primary. He ran unopposed in the 63rd district, which is the district that I live in. We paid a lot of attention, Sam, to the Republicans because there were 4 of them. We weren't ignoring you. We just, it's where the action was in the primary. John Hardy wins that primary by a whopping 9 votes.
Is that the final total, 9?
9, yes. And in fact, Pamela Brush issued on Facebook a lovely statement about not seeking a recount and wishing John Hardy the best of luck and all of that, and it was very gracious of her to do that. So it appears that despite the fact that they had a primary, they seem to be pretty united now behind John Hardy from what I can see.
Well, when we did debate, the 4 of them pretty much agreed on almost every issue. So the next time we see a debate between John Hardy and Sam Brown, I suspect we'll see some differences of opinion.
You know, I definitely suspect that that's the case there, Rob. There's some issues that I think are necessary to talk about here in the 63rd. I think there's some issues that are going to come up as differences between myself and my opponent, and I'm actually really looking forward to it. I think the debates are going to be really great, and I think we're going to have a good time coming up here through November.
Let's talk about some of those issues, Sam. You laid it on the table. It was one of my questions I was going to ask anyway. The differences, as you see them, between what you're hearing from John Hardy and what he stands for and what he would try to make a priority, and in contrast, what your agenda might be.
Sure. So there's definitely some differences, and there are, of course, some similarities of both things that we want to agree on. We want to help lower taxes on small businesses and how we can get them a head start in our booming Berkeley County economy. But when we're talking about some differences, there are some key issues that came out of the legislature just this past spring in this 2018 session. Specifically, I know we talked a lot on this show about the teacher crisis that's happening here in West Virginia. How we're seeing teachers leaving the state, and I think we're going to see a lot of differences between myself and my opponents on how we go ahead and tackle those issues, how we put a permanent fix on PEIA. So I think that's something that's going to be a big difference. Another big difference is when we look to the establishment in Charleston and how we want to tackle higher education funding. When we see population increases happening here in Berkeley County, and we see that a large amount of these population increases are coming and stemming from one of our economic booms that's happening right here. It's the driving educational powerhouse, which is Shepherd University and Blue Ridge Community and Technical College.
And in full disclosure, just to mention, you graduated from Shepherd and you will be teaching as an adjunct professor this fall at Shepherd.
That is correct, which is why I am adamant about it. We have to preserve our funding for these institutions, not just for Shepherd, but also for our community and technical colleges like Blue Ridge. So that's something that we're going to be getting into.
But did they get their funding decreased in this last legislature or increased?
They didn't get a decrease in this last legislature, but what we're happening is we can't just look at one session. We have to be looking over a period of time. For the past 5 to 6 sessions, what we've seen is another 2% every single year. And while it doesn't seem like a lot, that can add up to millions and millions of dollars, which can cut programs that are beneficial to students, just like the speech and debate team I was on when I was at Shepherd, just like programs like Program Board that are able to help students who are looking to get involved on campus, that can cut serious salaries for professors and people there. So those are a couple of the education items that I think are going to be a bit of a contrast.
Education's high on your agenda, whether it be support of the teachers, a permanent fix for PEIA, and increased funding for higher education.
That's correct, Dave.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about free education for college students? Is that someplace that West Virginia needs to...
We almost had it this year, too, for
we had it for the 2-year schools.
For the community and technical colleges. And that's something to definitely think about, but when we're looking specifically at 4-year colleges and universities like Shepherd, one way that we kept young people and working people in our states is something called the Promise Scholarship, which I was one of the last recipients of the Promise Scholarship, where it ended up being a full ride here in the state of West Virginia, which was very beneficial to students who otherwise wouldn't have the money to pay for it and are looking to get ahead to get back into the workforce and help boost our economy. What we've seen from the Republican establishment in Charleston is we're seeing that the Promise Scholarship continues to be whittled and whittled away to where now it doesn't even cover a semester at Shepherd. That's unacceptable. That's something that we've got to be putting a fix to, which ties into this education plan we're going to be talking to folks about.
In the years, were you a 4-year graduate at Shepherd? Did you 4.5, 5? What was your...
A 4-year graduate, yes.
Okay, so from what you saw your freshman year to when you graduated, can you cite a specific decrease in the Promise Scholarship as you were saying you were a beneficiary of it?
Sure. Well, it started out as a promise of a full ride, and it dropped down to, I believe, $4,750 for the year, which is that's a stark contrast. And when we're looking at students that want to go to maybe colleges that have a little higher tuition than Shepherd, such as WVU or Marshall, we're finding it's difficult for them to not only be able to cover tuition, cover room and board, help cover for their books. So what I would argue you're going to see from that is students either dropping out because they can't pay for it or simply not going to college in the first place, and again hurting our economy, because that's ultimately what we're both trying to do, myself and my opponents. We want to improve the West Virginia economy. We see Berkeley County growing and booming. There's just very different ways that we go about doing that. And I think one of the number one ways we go about doing that is by strengthening our education, both through K through 12 and both through higher education as well.
One of the ways John Hardy, I think, would, and I don't mean to speak for him, but I'm making an assumption here that he would probably support the Republican leadership team in supporting things like the end of prevailing wage requirements. I would imagine he would be on the Republican side of making this a right-to-work state. Where are you on those issues? Because those are ways in which the Republicans claim they're helping long-term help the West Virginia economy. Do you fall in line with that belief, or do you go a different way?
We've seen the Republican establishment in Charleston since 2014. And what we've seen since 2014 is articles from the Charleston Gazette, articles from the Washington Post, on how we see not only people leaving the state, but we've seen economic decreases in productivity in West Virginia. And that's something that, while we've seen right to work passed, while we've seen people fighting against prevailing wage, we haven't been seeing these benefits or these impacts that the Republicans keep talking about.
But what the Republicans will say is that the Democrats had 80-some years.
Of course they will.
And we can't fix all of those problems in, 4.5, 5 years.
And I understand that argument. Of course, that's always going to be the argument, whether it's 4 years or 40 years. But when we're talking about, my opponent going down to Charleston and standing with the establishment, we don't just see that with prevailing wage, and we don't just see that with right to work. We can see that specifically in the context when I'm talking about teachers. And when we see a vote coming across someone's desk, we have to understand it doesn't matter if they're relatable. Doesn't matter what their age is or how much money they had in their campaign. What matters is how they're going to vote when that piece of legislation comes across their desk. And I would argue my opponent wouldn't stand for teachers when we're talking about those increases in the pay raises. Wouldn't stand for trying to
further pay for further pay.
That's correct.
You mean? Because I'm quite sure he supported the 5% raise that they got this last year.
That's correct. But we need to be looking more. We need to be doing more. And when we're looking in Berkeley and Jefferson and Morgan County, we see growing teachers just like my fiance who graduated from Shepherd University who are being laughed at by their own professors for staying here in the Eastern Panhandle when they could be going right across the border to Loudoun County and making almost twice as much. These are things we have to be looking at if we want to facilitate some economic growth.
Well, first of all, that's a shame that professors are laughing at the students for a personal choice that they're making, and I would hope that they would stop that. John Hardy is running as a conservative. He espouses his strong conservative values. He'll define conservative values both on social issues and economic issues. How do you beat a strong conservative in the 63rd District where Mike Folk has done so well in 3 elections?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Dave, because here's what's happening right now in the 63rd District, is we have essentially a third, and a third split. We've got the same amount of registered Democrats as independents and Republicans. So when we're looking at targeting, it's going to take what's called a good old-fashioned hard work. It's about putting our boots on the ground and wearing out the soles of our shoes, getting out and talking to voters. So in doing that, that's what I'm excited to do over these next, I think, 5 months is what we've got now. I'm looking forward to knocking on 5,000 doors, making 5,000 phone calls, half a dozen mail pieces. It's about getting out there and talking to people. And that's what I am very excited to do. So I'm sure he'll be doing the same thing over on his end, but I'm looking forward to doing the exact same, if not more, on mine.
Last Friday, I gave all of the districts in the Eastern Panhandle, including the congressional race and the U.S. Senate race, a rating from safe Republican, lean Republican, toss-up, and the same thing, lean and safe on the Democratic side. I put the District 63 as lean Republican. I mean, actually, I put it as a toss-up.
Not initially, as I remember. That's right. I heard it was a toss-up.
Yeah, I put it as a toss-up. And I did that because instinctively I'm thinking, this should probably be, in theory, a Republican district. Those independents you talk about have been voting behaviorally like Republicans. It went solidly for Donald Trump, as you well know, 2 years ago. But I also put into this equation exactly what you just said. I know you're going to work this district. I know no one's going to outwork you. Nothing against John Hardy. I think he's a hard worker as well. By the way, he's proven that. So I just want to let you know that this is how we're seeing this race right now, is one that could be very competitive. Having said that, though, I had Republicans at the table who strongly disagree with me on that point. The Republicans that I talk to in the communities think the 63rd is a solid Republican district. My question, how do you get, in order to win, you have to get Mike Folk voters to come back over and vote for you. That seems like a stretch to many people, that someone who is a progressive like Sam Brown is going to get Mike Folk voters to come over and vote for him.
Now, first of all, I wouldn't call myself a progressive, Dave. Okay. I just want to make sure we don't have that label out there.
Correct me on that, then.
I'm a common sense Democrat looking to fight for things that I think are important for all West Virginians. I want to lower your taxes when we're talking about small business owners and how we fix that. I have an A rating from the WVCDL. I'm a very moderate common sense Democrat that's looking forward to actually getting things done in a common sense approach. My logo or my motto is Real Solutions for Berkeley County, and that's what I'm excited to do. So in answering your question, when we're looking to how we get some of these Mike Folk voters, who many of them are independents, they don't consider themselves either Republicans or Democrats for a reason. And those are people that I can get out there and have one-on-one conversations with. They see a like-minded young person like me who hasn't left the state, who's just decided to stay right here in Berkeley County, fight for not only his growing family, but other families just like theirs, on how we can help lower their taxes, how we can improve the economy here in West Virginia, and how we can bring ourselves back from being 50th to hopefully being first.
Sam, you have some time to stay for a little bit?
Sure thing.
All right, we're going to take a commercial break. Be right back with more. Sam Brown is our guest. He is the Democrat nominee, uncontested primary. He just came through, obviously, without any struggles because it was uncontested. That's for the 63rd, where he'll meet John Hardy in the general election in November. This segment was brought to you by the Berkeley County Health Department, the BCHD, offering public, clinical, and environmental services at 122 Waverly Court, Martinsburg.
Fire up the barbecues and the deals at the Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Memorial Day sales events. Get great savings like $12,000 off a new 2017 Ram 2500 diesel or $10,000 off a new 2017 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. Get the new 2018 Jeep Compass Sport for only $252 a month for 84 months, or lease the new 2018 Chrysler Pacifica LX for only $365 per month for 39 months. Fire up the barbecues and the deals at the Memorial Day sales event at Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty, on Kelly Island Road, Martinsburg, and online at millerschryslerjeep.com. Stock number 17450, stock number 17113, stock number 18045, stock number 18170. All payments based on 3.9% APR and $3,000 down on approved credit. Taxes, tags, and processing fees extra. See dealer for details. Since 1877, Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies have proudly supported our local community. Farmers and Mechanics has the insurance products to meet your needs, including home, auto, farm, dwelling fire, business owners, and umbrella coverage. Please contact your local independent agency for a review of your insurance needs and ask for a policy from the company that knows you best. Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies, just off Edwin Miller Boulevard on Administrative Drive in Martinsburg. FMIWV.com.
The Wellness Center at Berkeley Medical Center has introduced a 10-week sports-specific training program called SPEED for 12 to 17-year-old athletes. The goal of SPEED is to evaluate each individual athlete, assess their deficiencies, and design programs to improve the athlete's performance. The new program for young athletes includes strength and conditioning coaching from the Wellness Center pros, as well as the Technogym equipment. If you're interested in building a foundation of long-term athletic success and injury prevention for your athlete, contact the Wellness Center at Berkeley Medical Center.
Let me tell you a story about a boll weevil.
Little Brook Benton here, Dan. What are they?
Now, some of you may not know.
You know,
Little Brook Benton?
Yeah, it's got a good beat. Yeah, it's you can dance to it, right?
Slowly.
I'll give it a 7.
This segment of the program, brought to you by L.A. Roberts Jewelers, committed to excellence in quality design and craftsmanship. At historic downtown Martinsburg. Big show tomorrow, the Friday show. Joe Ferretti is back in the house along with Mike Carl. I'll be here, you'll be here, and Delegate Jason Barrett as well.
All right.
That's tomorrow's Friday show.
All mature adults who can have adult discussions and disagree at the same time without being disagreeable.
The guest,
all except that Carl guy.
At 8:08 will be Senator Joe Manchin.
I love that.
Joe on the phone tomorrow.
That's exciting.
8:08.
As we always say, if your name is Joe or Shelley, you always get on the air when you want to.
Or Alex. We get you the free pass through. 926 304-263-6540 or 304-263-6586. Our telephone numbers if you'd like to be a part of our program. On election night, we asked just about college graduate Sarah Blair. I think she has one more thing she's got to take care of at WVU before she's an actual college graduate, one more semester. But she got elected as a high school student when it is an 18-year-old. We asked her feelings election night on young people serving, what she thought her experiences were. And she said, I would recommend that young people not do what I did. It was not what I thought it would be. In fact, it was ultimately very frustrating because you go there with all these ideas thinking you can get things accomplished quickly, and what you find out is you can't do anything quickly when it comes to a legislature. We said, do you have any advice for Sam Brown? And she said, yes, don't run.
She was rather blunt about that, actually, wasn't she?
I'm sure. There is a big difference between being elected as a 17-year-old and running as a 22-year-old, just as I'm sure you'll say 4 years from now there's a big difference between doing 26 and 22. For one, you've had 4 years out of college and you've been working and paying taxes and whatever, as opposed to being a college student. But that was Sarah's advice to you. Don't run, Sam.
And that's correct. And I was listening in on that night.
And thank you for listening that night.
I appreciate that. And like I said, I was listening in, and I took her words, and I thought about it for about 5 minutes. And then I came back with what I thought is very important here, is when we see young people leaving our state in droves, we see how we're losing congressional seats because of it. We've lost over 100,000 people in the past 10 years. And that's not retirees moving to Florida. That's young, working people, just like myself and just like Sarah, who've either graduated from high school or college and are looking to enter the workforce and are looking to become productive members of society. And if we're going to tell one of those young people that's looking to make it here in Berkeley County, looking to start a family, that he should run and that he shouldn't try to fight for those things, then I'm sorry, but I think that we're looking at two very different things, and we have two very different priorities on how we prioritize keeping young people in our state. So to answer that, I think it's very clear. No, I won't be dropping out. I'll be working hard.
Yeah, I know you and Sarah share opposite parties and probably a lot of different viewpoints, but the one thing she did, I think, for at least for Rob and I would imagine other people in the area who write or talk about political news, is that after it was big news when she ran, and we wanted to talk a lot about her youth and her inexperience and all of those things that come with being young, but after about a year, didn't talk about that anymore. And the reason was because we started looking at her as a very serious and effective legislator. So she's kind of a trailblazer to people like you coming up and running and taking this on as a young age, because you'll notice, I think there would have been a time, Sam, you could have come in here and that's all we would have talked about. Is, oh, wow, look, the college kid's running for state delegate and he's so young.
Right.
We don't talk about that anymore. Really, it's not a big deal to us at all, unless it's a part of a story that you want to share. But I think we owe that to Sarah, really, because she proved to us
she did a great job.
That she, could go and be a very, very good state delegate.
But nevertheless, let's talk about your youth, because one, we're jealous of it. We don't have it any longer. So.
And the other thing is, I think other people are probably going to talk about it too. The contrast is he's running against a successful local business guy, owner of a business. A lot of people know him. I mean, he's painted our house, and probably 100 others in the district as well.
Sure.
He has met a payroll. He has owned homes. He has raised a family. He has these life experiences, and in some people's mind, that counts for something.
And he's navigated regulations that the state has and puts on businesses. He's navigated the tax laws and the health laws and liability laws and workers' compensation.
He's filled out FAFSA forms.
Goodness gracious.
I hear you there. Same here.
Sam probably has to. But someone looking at the two of you might say, okay, Sam, what perspective could you possibly bring to a legislature that a person who's done all the things in a community and a business that John Hardy has done?
Right. I've got two perspectives on this. First, I'm sure he's done these things, but at the same time, like I said before, that doesn't change how you vote in Charleston. Your life experiences, how relatable you are, whether you're a business owner, that doesn't change what you're going to stand for and what you're going to run on. So first, I tell a voter, look at the issues, look at what we're standing for, and look who's going to bring real solutions for Berkeley County. But second is when we're looking at these ideas and we're looking at these life experiences, that's great, but don't count the underdog out. Don't count out the Democrat on the other side who might be getting written off. He's got life experiences too. He's worked 3 jobs to get through college. He understands the struggles. He understands how difficult it is to start a family and raise a family here in Berkeley County. He understands how expensive the housing market is as he's looking to buy his first house in Berkeley. I think these are very real experiences that people can run on, and it is relatable because people can identify with those and think, wow, I did that 5-10 years ago, or I'm doing it now. This is someone who's serving as an example on how to make it and how to make Berkeley County work for you.
Sam Brown is our guest here on the program, and if you'd like to ask Sam a question, our lines are open at 304-263-6540 or 6586. Were you a Bernie Sanders guy or a Hillary Clinton guy when it came to the primary for the last presidential race?
I was not. I was neither. I was actually a Martin O'Malley guy coming out, watching those debates. Unfortunately, he didn't get the time I wanted during those, but I was unfortunate I didn't see him get through, so... Neither of those, I would say.
Who did you vote for in the general? If you don't want to answer that question,
I'm not going to disclose that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Sam, one of the...
I presume it was Hillary then.
I wouldn't presume that. But go ahead.
One of the things in these races is the presence of outside resources that come in and influence the race. And when that happens, it usually means that both sides or one of the sides feel that there's an opportunity to win. We would call that a targeted race. Do you have any indication from party leaders, whether it's from Charleston party leaders or Eastern Panhandle party leaders, that the 63rd, they're looking at the 63rd and looking at your candidacy as one worthy of targeted status, and are they coming in to help you with money especially, or things that cost money, like direct mail pieces.
Right.
Do you have any sense or any knowledge that there are party organizations or outside groups coming in to help this campaign and help you win?
Well, if Democrats want to take back the legislature in 2019 session, there are certain seats in the Eastern Panhandle that have to flip. And there are certain seats we know that can flip. We looked at the 67th with John Doyle, a very Democrat district, and we looked at seats that don't have incumbents, like the 63rd. And we see seats that have very, very similar voter registration totals and young, energetic, and driven candidates who are working to make those seats change. So when I'm talking to vendors and I'm talking and running these models in the district, I see that this race is going to be very, very close. This race, I would argue, and I'll say it right now here in May, it's going to come within 50 votes. And I think that's a very, very accurate number. So it's going to come down to how hard these candidates are willing to work. It's very close.
How much do you think then, let's stay on this topic of a very close race, because when you are in a close race like that, and by the way, I tend to agree with you on this, that it's going to be a very close race, that you have several dynamics that can influence the outcome either way of a race that close. One of them is turnout. And oftentimes turnout is generated by whose base is the most energized. Here you have at the top of this ticket this year, and I think a lot of things are going to depend on what happens here. Patrick Morrisey on the Republican side, Joe Manchin on the Democratic side. And I can almost guarantee you that when it's all said and done, Pat Morrisey will win this district in the 63rd. I think that his voters are more energized, both his Republicans and his independents. As I see it now, I reserve the right to change my mind in September or October, but I do believe that Morrisey has demonstrated a great deal of strength in the Eastern Panhandle, and over the time, Joe Manchin really hasn't demonstrated a lot of strength in the Eastern Panhandle. His bases come from elsewhere. How do you navigate that whole situation as it relates to the Morrisey base and the Manchin base in your own campaign?
Well, first, Dave, turnout is very, very important. And what we've seen in midterm elections, what we saw from just the primaries here, is turnout's pretty bad. And that's something that has to be fixed. And that's what's going to happen at the top of the tickets. It was bad in the primary,
wasn't it? 16%.
It was. It was horrible here in Berkeley County. But what these candidates have to do if they want to win on the top of the ticket, Manchin and Morrisey, they've got to turn out this dormant base. These people that only vote in presidential elections, they got to work to get them out. And when we're seeing that these voter registration totals are dead even in the 63rd, I think Manchin and Morrisey both have to work hard to be able to overcome that.
Do you think you benefit from a higher voter turnout?
I think I do.
Tell me why.
Well, because what we've seen historically is when there's low voter Democratic turnout in the 63rd, we see the Republican win. When we see that the highest Democratic voter turnout that we have ever seen in the district in 2012, we see that Don Marshall came within almost 100 votes of Michael Folk, who's got a lot of family in the district. He didn't win. But here's what's important to think about. When we're looking at this midterm election, we know that low voter turnout is going to happen across the board, whether we're looking at Republicans, independents, or Democrats. So what's more important now than ever is candidates like Joe Manchin and candidates like John Unger and myself get out there, we get people to vote, and we turn out that dormant Democratic base. And I know that my opponents are doing that on the other side.
That's a tough thing to do. And I speak here not as a radio commentator, but as a manager of political campaigns for 30 years. That's a very tough thing to do, to get non-presidential year voters out in a midterm election. It's doable, but it just takes a lot of work.
And that's essential for both sides. I know my opponent knows it's going to be a very tight race as well. So while we're working to win over voting Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, we've also got to put a lot of work into getting those dormant Republicans and Democrats, and even voting Independents, out to the polls. That's what's important.
Sam Brown is our guest, Democratic nominee out of the 63rd. He'll take on in 6 months John Hardy in the general election here for the House of Delegates seat from that 63rd district, which was created, 6 years ago, the Don Marshall, Mike Folk race. Sam, I need you to clean up a few things here for me, because I have in my brain some conflicted things going on. I need you to straighten out.
Sure.
Okay? And you said you wanted to do some small business tax cuts.
That's correct.
Correct. You were not in favor of the elimination of prevailing wage?
Correct.
Okay. You are in favor of a teacher raise?
Correct.
Okay. And more money in education for Shepherd University?
Yes,
okay.
in our community technical colleges.
All right, so prevailing wage, we've spoken with Steve Catlett, head of Parks and Rec. He tried to get the Randy Smith Center built prevailing wage, he said, cost an additional $500,000 on a $2 million project. I can't imagine what it costs a university like Shepherd, which is building far in excess of what was going on with the Randy Smith Rec Center. So prevailing wage, to the way I would calculate it, would create additional costs for Shepherd University, additional tax funds. If you want to cut small business taxes, and you want to give teacher raises again next year, and you want to go back to prevailing wage, which increased cost to taxpayers, I need you to tell me how we're balancing out this fund here, because
Sure.
to me it doesn't add up mathematically.
Well, Rob, not everything's going to be done in the first day of session or in the first 60 days. Not everything can be done in the same 1, 2, or 3 year plan. But I think it's important for candidates like myself to have these ideas and have things that we want to strive for. We're not going to have our perfect utopian community right out of the gate, but when we're trying to balance these issues, one, it's important to be able to be bipartisan, have those common sense across the aisle approaches, and understand that not everything we want to do is going to get done. But what we still have to do is fight for things that we think are important.
Okay.
Increase revenue coming in our state.
But increased revenue that comes into our state, the Republicans would tell you that part of the way of doing that is improving the business climate, which included rolling back prevailing wage, for instance. Also, making this a right-to-work state, they would tell you would improve the business climate. But the other part of that is, if you want to give a teacher raise, that's immediate. That's not long-term. Teacher raise is going to be the next time we go back into session. Teachers are going to want another raise, especially when they see that they are being cited by other states around this country, which have rallied for teacher raises and seen bigger teacher raises than what they got. And I know we've talked to people who have already said at least 5% next year, once again, is what the target is. So that's additional taxpayer costs. And that's immediate. That's not long-term. Right. So you got to come up with another 5% raise for next year for teachers. So where's it coming from, especially if you want to get in there and cut taxes on small businesses?
Well, I think the more immediate thing that we're going to be looking at in this next session is fixing PEIA. That's going to be more immediate down the road.
Well,
there's going to be a
5%. There's a task force for that underway right now, which is obviously giving it a lot of stuff.
And what would you tell the task force right now? Is there a fix for PEIA that you have in your mind? Do you have a solution to this?
Of course, I don't have one size fits all solution, but something we can be looking at is, of course, I know you've heard about this, the natural gas severance tax, increasing that to be able to pay for PEIA. And of course, that's not putting taxes on small business. That's not putting taxes on working West Virginia families. That's putting taxes on natural gas. That's going to be able to help improve and facilitate this business climate and environment that Rob's talking about here. So when we're getting into Charleston in January, it's not going to be everything's done right at once. It's not going to be a 5% teacher pay raise across the board, but it's going to be coming back, talking to folks across the aisle, talking to folks in your caucus, and understanding that there are things that need to be done, and there's ways on which we can improve on them.
And the PEIA issue, you think, can be solved by increasing severance taxes? That's been a big Democrat Party mantra so far.
It has, and I think that's something we've got to start talking about. I completely agree with that, Rob. I think that's something that, and that's going to come before the next teacher pay raise, because PEIA is critical to get that solved. I'm on PEIA right now, and I can tell you, we need some help.
When you, in the course of this campaign, I can pretty much guarantee you that there's going to be someone, whether it's John Hardy's campaign or the Republican Party or some outside organization, that is going to flood my mailbox with mailers and buy ads on this radio station that is going to say Sam Brown is a tax and spend liberal. That accusation's going to come. How do you respond to that, and what might you retaliate with your own message about John Hardy?
Sure. So, first of all, I'm looking forward to running an above-board positive campaign. That's the number one thing I'm excited for. Second, when we're talking about labeling Democrats as tax and spend Democrats, that's what Democrats have been labeled for the past 100 years, so I'm expecting that. But what I want people to understand is I'm not a tax and spend liberal or a progressive. I'm a common-sense, moderate Democrat that's looking forward to fighting for business leaders, that's looking forward to finding solutions while not necessarily just saying we're going to cut, and then expect business to fall into our lap in the Panhandle. That's something we've got to be talking about. So while there might be a lot of mailers that get dumped in your mailbox, I'll have a few for you too there, Dave.
Well, but you're going to tell me that you're not a tax and spend liberal, Sam, right after you tell me you want to raise the severance tax in the state.
Well, and again, it's not, we can't always say that there's a hard and fast rule for everything. We can't just say we're never going to tax, we're never going to tax, we're going to cut it off, because then we would have no infrastructure to go off of. What we have to have is, like I'm saying, common sense individuals who are looking for real solutions for Berkeley County, who aren't just going to say, like some candidates, I'll never raise taxes, I'll never ever touch taxes again. They have to be willing to say, here are real compromises that we have to make if we want to see working West Virginia families back.
What I hear from most Republicans, Rob, though, is along those same lines, is they're saying raising taxes isn't the issue, it's cutting spending is the real goal.
And in 30 minutes, Sam, you've not talked about cutting spending in the state once.
Well, there's things I think we can definitely do. Of course, that's a Republican thing that they'll talk about, but I'm telling you things I think we can improve.
Take party out of it. It's a taxpayer thing I think we can talk about. When the governor says we don't have any more room to cut, and then we found out the Supreme Court is spending $30,000 on couches.
And that's something I totally disagree with.
And then you can't tell me that there's no room to cut. There's got to be room to cut.
There's room to cut, and I'll tell you where it is. And of course, that's not going to be my main messaging because I want to talk about how we're benefiting families. But one thing that we can
benefiting families by cutting taxes, though. If we're spending less money, it's not going to cost as much in taxes to pay for the budget.
And I totally agree with you, Rob, which is why one of the first bills that I want to put on the table when we get down there in Charleston in 2019 is cutting and eliminating special session salaries that go towards delegates that aren't able to get the job done the first time. I've seen ever since I was young, we see these special sessions that keep happening every year. We didn't see it this year, but we've seen it in about 5 years past, is that we're spending tens of thousands of dollars on our representative salaries when they can't get the job done the first time when they're supposed to be in Charleston. So I'm totally open to cutting the fat. I think that's important. I think cutting so that we can cut taxes is relevant and necessary, and that's what's going to take to win in this district.
Where else can we cut spending?
We can cut spending when we're looking at certain, like I said, special session salaries. We can cut spending in relation to different activities when we're looking at the budget. When we're talking about line items, I know we talk a lot about the state chair of education. That's something that we can look at. When we're looking at salaries across the board for representatives, I wouldn't mind for this to be a volunteer position. I think that's important. I think it's got to be more of a focus on service and less of a focus on salary.
I think you're going to have a hard time getting people to go to Charleston from this distance for free.
I understand that, but those are things we can look at.
Hey, we're out of time. Sam, where can people find out more about your campaign over the next 6 months?
They can find out on my website, sambrownwv.com, or find me on Facebook, Sam Brown for West Virginia House of Delegates. Or they can always reach me at my phone number at 304-283-7851.
Sam, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Sam Brown.
You are welcome anytime. We look forward to seeing more of you.
9:44. You went to FCA, right?
That's correct.
Coming up next, we're talking about a big fundraiser coming up for FCA, and that'll be Jordan Ottley in studio in just a second here.
They can see where your family wants to eat.
For over 30 years, Haas's Family Steak & See has been serving premium certified steaks made from scratch soups, their famous fresh salad bar, and fresh baked desserts, all at family-friendly prices. Forget the drive-thru window and bring your family to Haas's Steak & See on Edwin Miller Boulevard in Martinsburg for lunch and dinner.
Haas's Family Steak & See where your family wants to eat.
Catch the excitement of Mountaineer baseball in the final Big 12 series at Monongalia County Ballpark.
Swung on and driven in the air. That's deep to left field. Turning around is Watson, and he's going to watch that sail out of here for a two-run gunner for Jimmy Galuski.
Don't miss your chance to see West Virginia take on Baylor May 17th through the 19th. The action begins Thursday at 6:30, Friday at 6:30, and Saturday at 1. Tickets are on sale now at WVUGame.com or by calling 1-800-WVUGame. Order your tickets today.
The City of Martinsburg is presenting its 28th annual Take Pride in Your Community Spring Cleanup Campaign on Saturday, May the 19th. The City of Martinsburg will be accepting unwanted items and debris from Martinsburg City residents only at the recycling building located on East Stevens Street. Proof of residency is required. The city will accept tires, a maximum of 4 per person, refrigerators and air conditioning units without Freon, and all other appliances too. Free pickup of unwanted items and debris for elderly and handicapped residents is available. Arrange for it by phoning Public Works at 264-2126 from May 1st through the 18th. Sorry, the City of Martinsburg cannot accept electronics, contractor debris, fencing, wire, concrete, motor oil, shingles, asbestos, antifreeze, or paint. The City of Martinsburg appreciates the community's effort in taking pride in your community on May the 19th. Get involved, be a neighborhood volunteer, and take pride in your community.
Well, in
Welcome back to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. Sam Brown, just our previous guest here, FCA graduate, and we had an opportunity to have some alumni come together out in our hallway.
Yeah, we did.
They didn't know it.
It was fun, sure.
But they just found out. Jordan and Joel Ottley from Faith Christian Academy are here and our guests in this segment. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
You didn't ever see Sam in the hallways there?
No, we hadn't. It's the first time we met. Knew the name, but didn't know that he was a faith graduate. So it was great to put a face to a name, and we just kind of shook hands, and we'll keep in touch. That's what happened.
I spend a lot of time at Faith Christian Academy every morning in that traffic jam.
They need to put a traffic light there. That's all we need. One traffic light.
That's Jordan talking right now. And Joel, are you the younger brother or the older brother?
Yes, sir. I'm the youngest.
I was going to say you look like the younger brother, but you never know in life anymore. What's the age difference?
4 years between us two. I've got three other brothers, four of us boys, and that goes all the way up to, we had one that was born in 80, Jason Ottley, my second oldest brother, Jonathan, born in 1982.
You guys all J's?
All J's. I was born in 1986, and Joel was born in 1990, so we've got a nice little age gap there.
You know, my wife comes from a family of 6 children, and they're all D names, except for one. He's Henry. Okay, so we have Dan and Debbie and Diane and all this, and then one in the middle named Henry. And the reason was, as folklore has it in the family, was that I guess it was the grandfather was named Henry and told the dad, if you name one Henry, I'll pay for his college. So named him Henry, and the money never came, by the way. So he reneged on it.
I owe you on that one. Right. So that bill. FCA has a charity fundraiser coming up for a very good cause, Jordan and Joel. Maybe you could tell us about it.
Yeah, sure. So a year ago, on May 7th, my father passed unexpectedly to heart failure, and he was actually vacationing in Barbados with my oldest brother, Jason Ottley, and was helping him to write his dissertation. My father was a very prominent man here in the area, passionate about education. He was an administrator, coach. He did everything. He's just a wonderful man in the community. When someone dies unexpectedly in your family, the first thing you want to do is find a way to commemorate their life, honor their life. And so what my brothers and my mother and I have decided to do was, in honor of him, to start a scholarship. My father back in the 90s was actually principal at Faith Christian Academy. And we have been deeply rooted here for almost 40 years. And so the Ottley family wants to give back to the community and support one of the students that would like to attend Faith Christian Academy or are already attending Faith Christian Academy and just need a little help covering tuition. If there's more than one child in the family, sometimes we know that education can be expensive. And so this game is an open invitation to the community to not only celebrate the life of a wonderful man, but also an opportunity for parents to have their kids get exposed and talk more about the scholarship that we're getting ready to put on.
I'm sorry you guys lost your dad. It's never something easy, especially at a young age. How old was your dad when he passed?
He was turning 71. He was 70.
That's exactly how old my dad was when he passed.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
It was several years ago, but that was the age, and it seems so young to me then when my father died. 71-year-olds these days shouldn't be dying.
Yeah, I mean, my father had just recently, a hardworking man. He loved administration. He loved education. He had traveled to over 50 countries and been to all of the continents except Antarctica.
Wow.
Each of his administrative roles that he had an outreach program that started colleges or universities overseas, and so he was constantly traveling, and there were times that he himself afforded sponsored children to continue their education in these programs which his college would start and foster. So it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do for us as a family. It helped us obviously with the mourning process, knowing that that legacy is still going to live on not only in the scholarship but through each of us as boys, as his sons.
When is the game, and what's the admission cost?
The game is this Saturday, and it is at Faith Christian Academy.
What time?
5:30 is when the event starts. Admission is, there's no set cost for admission. It's by donation only. If you would like to donate, you can donate at the door. And the event is set to run about 2 hours, 5:30 to 7:30. So we'll have some giveaways, we'll have some sign-up sheets, we'll have some more flyers and information regarding the scholarship. So open invitation to the community. Come out if you have. The funny thing is about the players. There's 2 teams, 1 game.
The Ottleys versus everybody else.
You would think so. So the players themselves are all made up of either Faith Christian Academy alum or former attendees. So the ages vary from graduating high school class of 98 all the way to 2008. So we've got a decade of friendships that we fostered just through us brothers, with guys that we played with at Faith, who these guys are active participants in the community. So parents, you probably know these faces, you know these names because they teach in your schools.
Who are some of your players?
So we have John and Ben Mann. We have Cody Eckenrode. We have George Nunn. All 3 of my brothers are participating. Jason Ottley, Joel Ottley, Jordan Ottley, and Jonathan Ottley.
George coached there for a long time.
He did. He was actually my gym coach when I was in school. So he's deeply rooted in there. You can name off a few other names you have.
We have Justin Earl. He is the youngest of all of us, and we wanted to make sure he was definitely involved. We have the Kellogg brothers, Tommy and Doug Kellogg. Then
Jason Harrison, Brady Mann, Jeff Baker, who's actually faculty there now. Donnell Berry, Jeff Wiltshire, Drew Peterson, and Stephen Reed. So it's 2 teams. Each team has 9 members, and we're excited about the game because it's a good way to rekindle old relationships, but also, again, like I said,
will slam dunking be allowed at this game, you think?
Hey, if you can do it, please do it. I'm not going to say I'm going to be the one to do it, but yeah, please do it.
I think we all are past that age a little bit where dunking is probably...
It's not the dunking, it's the landing after the dunk now that gets you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, all these guys that look like Charles Barkley going up and down down the court.
We hadn't announced it ahead of time enough for people to really get in shape. So this is
that makes it more fun.
You never thought you'd have that conversation, huh?
Yeah. What's funny is we just literally announced the teams and the coaches, even down to the coaches. We just tried to make everything come full circle. Coach Kearns, Eric Kearns is actually the principal at Faith Christian Academy right now. He's one of the coaches for the blue team, which we just announced on the group Facebook page. And Coach May, who the gym is named in his son's honor, the Chris May Memorial Gym. He is
I didn't know that.
The other coach. So we just try to bring everything full circle relating to Faith Christian Academy. It's a place that we hold dear to our hearts. It gave us our foundation ethically, morally, religiously, and made us who we are today, as well as my father. So we're excited. We're excited about this event.
That's awesome. And again, it's tomorrow at 5:30.
Saturday, 5:30.
I'm thinking today's Friday.
Yeah, Saturday.
You're already ready. Yeah. Saturday. You can tell where I am in the work week. Saturday at 5:30 at Faith Christian Academy. And will you have concessions or anything else like that?
Yes.
50/50s, whatever.
We'll have concessions there. There'll be pizzas. That we've had tremendous donors from Domino's who are actually giving away some pizzas, and we'll also have pizzas there for sale. We'll have nachos, your typical concessions there. We'll have some giveaways. So, and when you come in, you'll get a ticket, and that ticket, hold on to it because that's going to be your chance to win a giveaway. So,
is there a way to donate to this scholarship without attending the game?
There is. We have a GoFundMe page, which we will also link to the Facebook page, the Al Ottley Memorial Scholarship Facebook page. But there is a GoFundMe link that we have that we can share to the community for those who cannot attend. They'll be able to donate that way as well.
You touched on this a moment ago. What did your Faith Christian Academy education mean to you?
Oh, it was everything. There's a joke that, a lot of parents think that education sometimes doubles as daycare, and it can in a sense, but if you're at the right institution or the right school, then that school can really shape and mold who you are as a boy or girl. And for me, starting as early as pre-K, it really gave me the structure and the one-on-one interaction with teachers. We had smaller classrooms at the time, maybe 12, 13 students. And so you really got that structured environment, regimented schedule, and then it was a Christian-based school. So you learned who you were supposed to be as a Christian, and also as just a boy growing up in when your father's the principal, you kind of gotta act right.
A lot of pressure there.
You got a lot of extra pressure.
I don't think I would have liked that very much.
I know I wouldn't have liked it if my father was principal. Yeah, the backhand would never have been far away. Joe, how about you?
You know, it really was that place for me that I hold dear and remember the most when it comes to school and education. I never thought that I would go through an entire life's worth of school and remember Faith Christian Academy as the most memorable place, even when it was the first place. And that goes to show you that it shaped.
That's a very powerful statement.
It really defined who I am as far as when we talk about shaping the right way and the right stem to grow in, because I mean, I remember my teachers, I remember everything about the hallways, I remember everything that I had learned, what not to do, what to do along the way, and everything about it, the atmosphere. And maybe it was because also including that, you know, yes, it's small, but it also at the same time was powerful just because the teachers meant and actually cared for you.
A couple of years ago, in my other job, I produced film, and we had a job to do in Northern Virginia at a K through 8 Catholic school, happened to be Catholic, but private school like Faith Christian. And I spent 3 days filming there with these students and with these teachers. And I came away thinking that was the best school environment I had ever been in my life. I was blown away by the closeness, the togetherness, the alertness of the kids, the way in which they behaved. There was no acting up, there was no heavy discipline going on. It was just sort of an unspoken culture of the place. I'm going to guess Faith Christian's a lot like that too.
It is, very much so. My father has a quote. He says, think critically, speak persuasively, write effectively, and solve problems. And those fundamental life skills are what we learned at Faith Christian Academy at an early age, and we carried it throughout our adulthood.
Jordan and Joel Ottley, sorry for the loss of your father. Sounds like he was a very powerful man.
He was. Thank you so much for having us on.
The charity basketball game to remember Mr. Ottley is on Saturday night at 5:30 at Faith Christian Academy. Lots of fun stuff going on around the game, too. And I do think it should be the Ottley brothers against everybody else at some point during the course of the night.
Should.
Jordan started something. Thanks, guys, for coming in.
Thank you.
Our Big Friday show is coming up tomorrow. And again, it'll be Joe Ferretti, Jason Barrett, Mike Carl, too. D-Dub, see you tomorrow.
Will do. How many hours?
See you back here in 22 short hours.
Will do.
Glenn Beck Show is next. This is Talk Radio, WNR Martinsburg. It's 10 o'clock.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by TheraWorks Relief.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. The White House says President Trump is still hopeful of a summit with Kim Jong-un, despite North